Hey sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay for cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s for the month of March 2024. Now for each of the three top 10 lists, I'm going to be showing the top 10 different cards. If there are other significant sales of any of those cards, I will note them, but I will be showing off 10 separate cards for each of the top 10 lists. Now for March in the 1950s, there are a couple of newcomers, I believe, to the top 10 list. In the 1960s, there's a pretty good variety of cards that show up on the top 10 list. And of course, for the 1970s, you're going to find some surprising cards that make the list and a lot of all-time record high sales for that particular card. So let's go take a look. Starting off with the top 10 from the 1950s. Coming in at number 10, we have this 1956 Topps Whitey Ford in a PSA 9. This one sold on March 24th for $8,386. It was an auction. There were 37 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $8,274. However, this particular sale was not in VCP's database. Now, this sale at $8,386 represents a new record high sale for a PSA 9. The previous high was the current average price at that $8,274 mark, and that was back in January of this year through memory lane. Now, this PSA 9 copy is one of only 22 graded copies, and there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the 1956 Topps Whitey Ford. At number 9, we have this 1952 Topps Jackie Robinson in a PSA 4. This one sold on March 3rd for $9,100. It was an auction. There were 70 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 4 is $13,420. The record high sale for a PSA 4, though, was $35,200 back in March of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay. Now, there was one other significant 1952 Topps Jackie Robinson sale. This one was a PSA 2 that sold on March 11th for $7,150. At number 8, we have this 1955 Topps Roberto Clemente rookie card in a PSA 8 off-center. This one was sold on March 30th for $12,500. It was a best offer. Now, the current VCP average price for a PSA 8 off-center is $5,950. And as you can see, this sale was not in VCP's database and would represent a new record high sale for a PSA 8 off-center. The previous high was $11,900 back in October of 2020 through eBay, and it was also an off-center PSA 8. Now, in a regular PSA 8, the population count is 123, but the PSA 8 qualifier count is 72. There was one other Roberto Clemente rookie card that sold in March. This one on March 3rd. It was a PSA 6 for $7,605. At number 7, we have this 1956 Topps Mickey Mantle Grayback in a PSA 8. This one sold on March 5th for $12,800. It was an auction. There were 50 bids. The current VCP average price is $13,566. However, the record high sale for PSA 8 was $23,700 back in March of 2023 through PWCC. At number 6, we have this 1954 Topps Yogi Berra in a PSA 9. This one sold on March 10th for $13,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $8,284, but this particular sale was not in VCP's database, and it would represent a new record high sale for a PSA 9. The The previous high was $8,803 back in March of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay. Now, this card is one of only 14 that have been graded a PSA 9. There has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the 1954 Topps Yogi Berra. Coming in at number 5, we have this 1952 Bowman Willie Mays in a PSA 9 off center. This one sold on March 31st for $14,000. It was a best offer. Now, the current VCP average price for a 9 qualifier is $6,838, but this particular sale was not in VCP's database. So this $14,000 sale would represent a new record high sale for a PSA 9 qualifying grade. The previous high was $6,838 back in January of 2023 through memory lane. Now, for a PSA 9 qualifier, there's only been 2 that have been graded. For a regular PSA 9, the population is only 6, and there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the 1952 Bowman Willie Mays. Now, there was one other 52 Bowman Willie Mays of significance in March. This one was a PSA 7 that sold on March 11th for $11,066. At number 4, we have this 1953 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 7. This one sold on March 25th for $16,355. It was an auction. There were 75 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 7 is $26,189. The record high sale, though, for a PSA 7 was $51,600 back in March of 2022 through PWCC. Now, there was one other significant sale of the 53 Topps Mickey Mantle, this one in a PSA 6 that sold on March 15th for $11,063. At number 3, we have this 1954 Topps Hank Aaron rookie card in a PSA 7. This one sold on March 10th for $16,500. It was a buy it now. Current VCP average price for a PSA 7 is $14,899, but the record high sale was $31,988 back in March of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay. Now, there were 2 other significant sales of the 54 Topps Hank Aaron rookie card. One was a PSA 6 that sold on March 30th for $12,315, and another PSA 6 that sold on March 3rd for only $8,325. At number 2, we have this 1951 Bowman Willie Mays rookie card in a PSA 6. This one sold on March 17th for $18,250. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 6 is $22,504, but this particular sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 6 was $46,111 back in February of 2022 through memory lane. Now, there were 3 other significant 51 Bowman Willie Mays rookie card sales in March. One was a PSA 4 that sold on March 17th for $9,250. That same card sold earlier on March 3rd for $9,200. Now, this sale appears to be the second sale on March 17th was through an eBay vault. So the winner of the card on March 3rd put it in the eBay vault, flipped it for only $50 more on March 17th. And the third significant 51 Bowman Willie Mays sale was a PSA 3.5 that sold on March 6th for $8,100. And at number 1, we have the 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle rookie card, this one in a very sharp PSA 4. This one sold on March 29th for $25,000. It was a buy it now, and it sold significantly above the current VCP average price of $14,631, but this sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 4 was $48,000 back in April of 2022 through PWCC. There were three other significant sales of the 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle rookie card. One was a PSA 3 that sold on March 31st for $13,378. Another PSA 3 that sold on March 26th for $13,000, and then a PSA 2 that sold on March 6th for $10,450. All right, on to the top 10 from the 1960s. At number 10, we have this 1969 Topps Johnny Bench in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 3rd for $4,401. It was an auction. There were 58 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $3,465, but this sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 9 was $5,300 back in May of 2023 through eBay. Now, in a PSA 9, this is one of 169 copies graded a PSA 9. There have only been 9 graded a PSA 10. At number 9, we have this 1960 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 8. This one sold on March 24th for $3,700. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $2,231. Again, this sale was not included in VCP's database. The record high sale was $4,320 back in May of 2022 through Heritage. Coming in at number 8, we have this 1962 Topps Manager's Dream card featuring Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays in a PSA 8. This card sold on March 31st for $3,728. It was an auction. There were 40 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $2,468, but this sale was not in VCP's database. Now, this sale nearly reached a record high sale for the card. The record high sale was $3,763 back in September of 2022 through Memory Lane. On to number 7. We have this 1969 Topps Mickey Mantle with the last name in yellow in a PSA 8. This one sold on March 10th for $3,916. It was an auction. There were 38 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $3,016. The record high sale was $6,750 back in December of 2021 through PWCC. There was one other significant sale of a 69 Topps Mickey Mantle in March. This one a PSA 8 that sold on March 13th for $3,850. At number 6, we have this 1961 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on March 24th for $4,950. It was an auction. There were 24 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $4,851. However, this sale was about half of what the record high sale for a PSA 8 was, which was $10,025 back in December of 2022 through SCP auctions. Now, there was one other significant 1961 Topps Mickey Mantle sale in March. Another PSA 8 sold on March 20th for $4,300. At number 5, we have this 1968 Bob Allen in a PSA 10. This one sold on March 17th for $5,411. It was an auction. There were 29 bids. And this sale price is also the current VCP average price because this is a new record high sale for this PSA 10 copy. The previous high was only $562 back in October of 2011 through Mile High. Now, in a PSA 9, there are 42 graded copies, but this is the only PSA 10 graded copy of the 68 Topps Bob Allen card. At number 4, we have this 1965 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on March 24th for $9,100. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8.5 is $9,488. The record high sale was $11,265 back in January of this year through eBay. Now, there were two other significant 65 tops Mickey Mantle sales in March. Both PSA 8s, one sold on March 11th for $4,819 and another one on March 3rd for $4,000. And number 3, we have this 1963 Topps Pete Rose rookie card in a PSA 8. This one sold on March 11th for $10,500. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $11,913, but this sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 8 was $27,500 back in March of 2021 through PWCC. Now, there were two other Pete Rose rookie cards that sold in March, both PSA 7s, one on March 5th for $4,013 and another on March 23rd for $3,800. At number 2, we have this 1967 Topps Rod Carew rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on March 24th for $15,311. It was an auction. There were 26 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $15,156. But it is well below the record high sale of $26,400 back in March of 2021 through Heritage. Now, this PSA 9 copy is one of 62 that have been graded a PSA 9. There's only been one graded a PSA 10. And at number 1, we have the 1968 Topps Nolan Ryan rookie card in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on March 31st for $21,766. It was an auction. There were 64 bids. The current VCP average price for a 8.5 is $19,050, but this sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 8 was $30,000 back in September of 2022 through PWCC. All right, on to the top 10 from the 1970s. At number 10, we have this 1972 Topps Nolan Ryan in a PSA 9. This one sold on March 10th for $3,735. It was an auction. There were 38 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $4,038. The record high sale was $6,000 back in September of 2022 through eBay. Now, in a PSA 9, there have been 194 graded copies. There have only been 9 that have been graded a PSA 10. Now, coming in at number 9, we have this 1976 Topps Clay Carroll in a PSA 10. This one sold on March 10th for $4,000. It was an auction. There were 2 bids. The current VCP average price is this sale at $4,000 and represents a new record high sale for a PSA 10 copy. The previous high was $450 back in February of 2015 through eBay. Now, while there's 91 copies that have been graded a PSA 9, this is one of only 9 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 8, we have this 1975 Topps Dave Hilton in a PSA 10. This one sold on March 26th for $4,494. There was an auction and there were 20 bids, and that is the current VCP average price and a new record high sale for a PSA 10 copy. The previous high was $293 back in March of 2009 on eBay. There have been 95 graded a PSA 9, but this copy here is one of only 5 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 7, we have this 1971 Topps Gary Gentry in a PSA 9. Really hard to find 71 Topps cards at that high of a grade because of the black border. This one sold on March 4th for $4,670. It was an auction. There were 16 bids, and that is the current VCP average price because it is a new record high sale for a PSA 9 copy. The previous high was $2,672 back in September of 2020 for a PWCC listing on eBay. And probably the reason for this high price is even in a PSA 9, there have only been 3 graded copies, and there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Gary Gentry card. At number 6, we have this 1976 Topps Bill Robinson in a PSA 10. This one sold on March 10th for $5,000. It was an auction. There was 1 bid, and that is the current VCP average price and a new record high sale for a PSA 10 copy. The previous high was $545 back in July of 2014 through eBay. Now, there have been 49 copies graded a PSA 9, but this one here is only one of 4 that have been graded a PSA 10. On to number 5. We have this 1975 Topps George Brett rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on March 3rd for $5,350. It was a best offer. Now, this card was not in VCP's database. They show the current VCP average price of $5,046. However, the record high sale for a PSA 9 was $8,562 back in July of 2021 through memory lane. Now, there have been 323 copies graded a PSA 9. There have only been 11 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 4, we have the 1971 Topps Thurman Munson Rookie Cup card in a PSA 8. This one sold on March 24th for $5,613. It was an auction. There were 32 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $4,758, but this sale represents a new record high for a PSA 8. The previous high was $5,532 back in April of 2021 through eBay. At number 3, we have the 1973 Topps Mike Schmidt rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on March 20th for $7,600. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $7,153. The record high sale, though, was $19,800 back in July of 2021 through Heritage. There have been 251 copies graded a PSA 9. Only 6 have been graded a PSA 10. At number 2, we have this 1971 Topps Rich Allen in a PSA 9. Now, this is a high number short print card. And again, a 1971 Topps card, really hard to find in high grade. This one sold on March 4th for $7,607. It was an auction. There were 34 bids, and that is the current VCP average price in a new record high sale for a PSA 9 copy. The previous high was $661 back in April of 2011 through eBay. This card represents only one of 4 that have been graded a PSA 9, and there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Rich Allen card. And at number 1, we have this 1975 Topps Pete Rose in a PSA 10. This one sold on March 24th for $16,048. It was an auction. There were 52 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 10 is $18,521, but again, this sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 10 was $19,200 back in March of this year through a Heritage auction. There have been 466 graded a PSA 9. This is one of only 24 that have been graded a PSA 10. Well, there you go. The top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay for cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s for March 2024. As always, would love to know in the comments what you think about the cards that made the 3 top 10 lists. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.